I wish my teacher knew this. I wish they did this. I wish my school knew about this. And I always say, well, speak up. Tell them, say, listen, there's more out there. You should be looking at what's going on outside of here. And it's up to us to really speak up and start demanding those resources, demanding mental health support, demanding that teaching methods change.
Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Puerschel, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Point to Rise podcast. My name is Susanne and I am your host today. Today's special guest is Sophia Selene. She is an international neuroscientist, dancer, performer, and dance teacher. She has done her postgraduate studies in neuroscience, where she conducted research thesis on the brain mechanism beyond dance. Her research has been published in the Dance Data Cognition and Multimodal Communication Routledge volume and presented at various international conferences and summits. She trained in dance therapy and somatic practices, has a double degree in psychology and forensic psychology, and worked as a mental health practitioner for 4 years. Through her Neuroscience of Dance project and dance integrated healing method, she provides neurocognitive and dance healing tools. She has been helping dancers and dance teachers all over the world for the past 2 years with the following key aspects: coping with injuries, neurological recovery, improving class environments, and teaching techniques, overcoming struggles like memory, equilibrium, and learning difficulties, improving mental well-being, improving dance skills, and using dance for healing purposes. Currently, she still takes part in research, conducts the Dance is Medicine podcast, occasionally teaches cognitive neuroscience and brain imagine research methods. That was a hard word. I apologize. At a personal level, she can never sit still. She is a cat and coffee addict, loves play the piano and write poetry. She is part of the LGBTL1A plus community. She is from a mixed background and actively supports the Black Lives Matter movement. She is dyslexic and emphasizes neurodiversity. She is dyslexic and emphasizes neurodiversity in every teaching. So without no further ado, this was a beautiful introduction to a beautiful human being. I cannot wait to share this with you. And please, whatever your biggest takeaway is, let us know so we can offer more value. Sophia has a podcast. Please tag her, tag me, tag the Point to Rise podcast. Whatever your biggest takeaway is, share it with us so we can provide more value upon those takeaways for you. Here's Sophia. Sophia, welcome to the Point to Rise podcast. I am so grateful that you're here and that we're going to have a absolutely magnificent conversation.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with some firecracker question, just to break the ice, to loosen up, and maybe to learn something about, besides of what we're doing as a business. So you said in your bio that you love coffee. What's your favorite coffee?
Mocha. Chocolate and coffee are my two favorite things. So when I discovered that's a thing that they mix chocolate and coffee, it's my favorite thing.
How much coffee do you have a day?
Oh, I've been trying to cut down, but I would say 2 or 3 coffees a day.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a favorite coffee shop you go to?
It's quite hard to say because I keep moving around. So I always have to find my new coffee shop. Here in the Netherlands, I haven't been able to find anything because it has been closed since I arrived. So hopefully I can explore it later.
Okay, which brings me, where were you born and where do you live currently?
So I was born in Portugal, Lisbon, and my hometown is called Sintra, which is a small little village which has like a lot of history and culture and palaces and castles, quite fairy tale place. And currently I live in the Netherlands.
Oh, wow, beautiful. Do you have a favorite childhood memory that keeps popping up into your head?
That's a really good question. Yes, I have. It was the first time I ever saw a piano, and I was like so amazed by it. And piano is another one of my passions. And I remember seeing like it was a grand piano as well, and I was so fascinated by it. And I remember because my grandmother used to go to this place, and her friend had this massive piano, and I used to go there all the time and just like play around. Like I didn't know what I was playing, but I was just play with the keys and being so fascinated by the sound.
Beautiful.
I think I was 4 or 5 years old.
I love that. Okay, thank you for sharing that. A favorite book, a book that you would always fall back to if you would or had the time.
Oh, that is the difficult one because I have so many.
Not limited to just one. You can.
Okay. So maybe I will refer to one I've read recently. The feeling of what happens.
The feeling of what happens.
Mm-hmm. The feeling of what happens is about consciousness and has a lot of like kind of like neuroscientific, philosophical knowledge. Is a mix of a lot of different perspectives, and it really makes you analyze like who you are and your mind and your brain and your body, who you are. It really makes you introspect into the self, who you are as a self, as a person. Also, the body keeps score. Definitely, the body keeps score all the way through. And then I have other books. I like poetry as well, but it's more like Portuguese authors because I did Portuguese literature at school. So a lot of the books, my favorite, I can say, is Blindness. It's called Blindness in English, and it's from a Portuguese author. What else? I do have a lot of favorite poetry books, but they all like Portuguese, like The Antidotes. And a lot of these, if people are interested, that they are translated. So you definitely can find them on Amazon or something.
Beautiful. Thank you. What's your favorite comfort food? When you're tired and your body has nothing left and you want to go sit on the couch and watch a movie, what's your favorite comfort food?
Oh, chocolate all the way. I am so addicted to chocolate. Honestly, it's insane.
I love it. Thank you. You just gave the whole world permission to eat chocolate. You all hear that?
You can't compete with me though.
Oh, have you met me? I'm sorry.
Oh, we need to plan a competition after this.
Yeah. Chocolate competition eating is so on, lady. Okay. Okay, let's jump into who you are. So there's all of these titles and achievements that you already have gained in your short life. I would love to know, how did you get to dancing? And what did this journey look like for you to go and then study neuroscience?
Oh, okay. So dancing, well, I've always been like a shy person, introverted, but I always loved dancing. And I always started really coming out and started dancing when I was 21, which is quite late. And I started doing it because I needed some kind of a hobby to cope with my mental health. And this is what I picked. So this is how I started my journey in dance, and then it became something more serious where I started performing and became a teacher. And then I was always really interested about movement from the neuroscientific point of view. I was always very interested in how do we produce movement, and what's the impact of movement in the brain, how we do all the skill movement that we do, how does this happen? And then when I started studying neuroscience at university, I had the opportunity to start studying dance because it just so happens there's a supervisor there that studies dance. So first week of uni, when everyone is just like, still figuring out what to do, I was like at his office, like, can you be my supervisor? Like, I already picked my supervisor. And since then, he's one of the most amazing people I know. So he has really helped me because he always believed in me, always supported me. He has a brilliant mind when it comes to research. And so it was really helpful to have that support and having him sharing his insight with me.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about what you learned, because we're in the infant stages when we're looking at a dance and actually looking at the science of it, looking at the science of our brain really and what it does to dance. Talk to us a little bit about your findings without, you don't have to share anything that you want not to want to share, but where I came from to talk about these kind of things. It really, what does that have to do with, arts and science? It's not a fit. It doesn't work. And we are truly in the beginning stages of proving that that's not the case, that dance is everywhere in everything that we're doing. And it is so important to find a correlation so we can actually become better at teaching dance. We can become better on stage. We can become better in how we're structuring the organization.
Well, in terms of knowledge, I will get my hands in everything I can when it comes to dance. And I've been trying as well to go more from another levels, like seeing dance from another lenses, such as like philosophy and other kinds of science, other kinds of fields that are not so strict and measurable, such as science. And for me, all the knowledge that I know that is out there, and I'm pretty sure I haven't studied everything that is out there, but from everything that I've been gathering, all the knowledge I've been gathering through research or through reading and extensive writing and all my journey until here, there is so much out there already that it's not really being passed on to dancers. And sometimes things, for me as a dancer, first what I've learned really informed me, really helped me. And then I find it's really unfair that dancers don't have access to that. And this is where I came up with a project, the Neuroscience of Dance, to really share the knowledge with dancers in the way that everybody can understand. Because as you said, it's really important that we start embracing science as artists, but also as scientists. It's important that we start embracing arts as potential sources of information about human nature and the human brain. So it's really important to have the knowledge, because as you said, if we know how the brain processes dance, if we know how the brain learns and produces dance, then we know how to overcome many struggles, be them memory, attention, learning new movements, perfecting motor skills. So that really helps, and this is what I focus a lot, is in the learning perspective, but also in the teaching perspective. How can we teach better our students? How can we include everybody and be really inclusive and aware of neurodiversity and individual differences? And how can we best be helpful to our students as teachers? So that's from the teaching side. But I also have the other side, which goes away from cognition, which is more into what's the impact of dance in the brain? Why is it so beneficial? How can dance be used as a healing and rehabilitation tool? And I'm really focused on that as well, because the more I study dance, the more I see the benefits. And then I'm thinking, why isn't this being used as it should be? Like why is that not being used at its fullest potential in the medical settings? And we've come a long way since dance therapy was founded, but we're not there yet, because dance therapy is seen as complementary treatment. It's not something that is as prescribed as you would imagine, and more studies prove that sometimes is more beneficial than normal rehabilitation techniques. So it's really, I really have the other aspect where I also focus on the healing properties of dance. How can it be used for rehabilitation? So I have like those both sides where I focus, okay, dancers, structured dance and learning and teaching, professional dancers, all of that. But I also have performing dance, and dance is an art form that is on the stage. But I also have the other side where dance is something that everyone can do, that is inherent to each human being, and how can that be used? How can each person use that tool they have inside of them?
Okay, I love this. I have 2 questions, follow-up questions.
Okay.
I say that dancers don't have access to this knowledge. And I want to challenge you on that sentence, because I believe we all have access to everything that we want to have access to. It's a matter of, do we see it as valuable to us and or not? Okay. So when I say this is to, okay, how can we rephrase that statement, perhaps, if you were to agree, if we're looking at it from a different perspective, and how can we, as what you are doing, make it valuable, or the proposition to the dancers so valuable that they can help themselves, but use this content, use what you're doing as something essential for their business. So they're understanding showing up in the studio and standing in first position every morning is your very first step on being a dancer. There is so much more that really pays into the complete circle, perhaps, of being a dancer. And I find that knowledge around how our body and brain works is so important. And they can look at your content, for example, that's where knowledge is. They can look at your research paper, that's where the knowledge is. They can work with you, and that's where the knowledge is. So I think we can do a better job at saying, hey, actually, there's knowledge everywhere and you have access. You just have to know that it's there and you have to feel it's actually important. And I want to put you on the spot here, and I am, and I apologize. But does that make sense to you? Like, how does that feel?
Totally. Actually, I completely agree with that. And you mentioned there's something really important. Like, we have the knowledge, but it's a matter. Are you willing to access it? And I see like there's a lot of these things. I think when it comes to dancers finding it important or not, this has roots, and it comes from a long history of body and mind division, body and brain division, and it's this thing about there's a lot of information about the anatomy of the dancer and the body and how different muscle groups work together. There's plenty of physiotherapy for dancers and all kinds of things when it comes to anatomy. And then when you start thinking about the mind, and here psychology of dance, and the brain, here neuroscience of dance, is not seen as important. And also this comes from the seeing the dancers' bodies as objects that need to be manipulated to be perfect. And the mental well-being, the mind that comes attached to it, is not being as valued. So there's a lot of focus on physical well-being, but not in mental well-being. And this is why psychology of dance is also not very popular. And I've collaborated with a couple of dance psychologists that do face this struggle. And then it comes the other side, which is neuroscience of dance, which is like, oh, why do I need to know how the brain works? Well, because it's connected to how you move your arm. If you don't have your proprioceptive sense, which is a sense that tells your brain what your body is connected to your brain. All of those things are really connected. So when it comes to finding it, I do see that a lot of institutions, schools, teachers, and dancers themselves maybe are not aware of how important this is, because dancers have been trained to be perfectionists, and they've been trained to be mentally strong and physically strong and sustain pain. And then teachers have been trained to also do that to their students. And I'm just saying it at a general level. I don't want people to think I'm here pointing fingers to anybody, but even institutions, I see that. And institutions and schools are not even looking at neuroscience of dance yet. They're not even thinking about, they're letting other things like mental well-being for dancers. There's a lot of that happening, thankfully. But when it comes to neuroscience of dance, I can see there's still a barrier between me and them because people haven't understood the importance of knowing not only the mechanisms of the body, but the mechanisms of the brain and producing movement. And how can we help dancers overcome struggles cognitively? And a lot of the time, dancers get injuries because they are not learning the movement properly, because there's a gap between the way they learn and the way the school and the company teaches, because they don't have enough proprioceptive awareness, and they have no idea because what is proprioceptive awareness and how can you make it, how can you train proprioception? And a lot of this is like not understanding that when there's gaps in cognition and when we don't address it, one, the dancer is going to take longer to learn. Second, they're more prone to injury. Third, their performance, they're going to struggle a lot. They're going to have struggles that can easily, a lot of the struggles that the dancers come to me with, they're easy to fix. And they're struggling the entire careers as dancers. And then I say, you know what, have you tried this? And they're like, oh, here's a solution for the thing I've been struggling all my life as a dancer. I just need to adjust the way I'm learning or the way I'm perceiving movement. And a lot of this comes back to the brain. So I don't think people really understand that it comes from this history, as I said, of science and heart division, first of all, and then the body and mind division. And a lot of my focus is connecting those 2 points as well for the answers. And then, accessing knowledge, I think there's this big thing where, okay, I feel like some dancers want to access knowledge, and before they find me or they find someone in the field who's willing to sit with them and have sessions with them, they, reading a neuroscientific article for someone who doesn't have neuroscientific background, it's difficult. Most of the time you'll be Googling the brain structures and what they do because you have no idea. And, articles can be really complex, even for me sometimes. So I can imagine someone going and trying to read it. So a lot of the times people are trying to get information, but all of this is encrypted in this academic language and scientific language. And what I try to do is I giving in the workshops everything that I know from research, but in a way that can be easily understood. And I even explain neuroscience and the brain structures and how they interconnect in a very fun and passionate way. I always make it fun. So I don't make it boring and, okay, so this structure does this. I really make it really fun and interesting because I want people to love and enjoy learning neuroscience as much as I do. So it's also that, and also I see the teachers want to do better. Some schools want to do better. Dancers want better, but they don't know maybe where to get it exactly. And then, there's a lot of the times where dancers want better, but the school doesn't want better. I had a student, she was studying psychology, but she was trying to change the dance environment. She's been a dancer for a long time. She's in a dance school, and she's like, I'm tired of this environment. Everyone's tired. I want to change it. I'm going to write an article. And she needed my help. And, it just seemed like she's fed up. And I said to her, listen, for you to make them hear you, you need to interrelate the mental well-being and the benefits of this and the benefits of having neuroscience of dance, psychology, etc. to performance. You need to tell them this will enhance performance, because if they really focus on performance and attaining goals, and it's really important to kind of connect. It's kind of like we need to speak their language, because a lot of the schools are focused on that. They completely oversee the dancers as human beings that have so much to offer. And I'm just saying this in general. Like I've never been in a dance school. I'm saying this in general from what I see, from the dancers that reach out to me, from the dancers that I've been coaching for the past 2 years. And this is always the same problem that comes over and over and over again. That they feel like their environments they are in are toxic. The schools are not very tuned into this kind of things yet. And the old teaching methods, that is just, we have enough of that. The old teaching methods, to be honest, when it comes to modern dance, and I'm more in the side of modern dance, and when I was in Australia, and I can only speak from being in Perth, but oh my God, they're so ahead. They are so ahead of the game when it comes to teaching methods and doing exercises in classes that are not related, that are not dance, but are related to dance, like such as walking and being mindful of your walking. This is, for me, is insane. And the classes I used to attend in there, I miss it so much, because for me, it was such a learning as well as a dancer and as a teacher, because they are so ahead of the game. It's insane. It's like, oh my God, they completely ditched the old teaching methods, at least of where I attended. I can't speak for the entire country, but this is what I'm trying to do, is to really introduce the old teaching methods. They're not inclusive. We are not including everybody. We just excluding people who don't have the perfect body, or who don't have who have like neurodiversity or neurodivergent, and those people need dance too. Those people also they have the right to become performers and dancers. And yeah, this is basically, and is what you said. That's the knowledge is there. People just need to be willing to open their minds, step outside the box, and nothing grows inside of a box. You need to step outside and get the resources. But it has been hard, I must say, to do that, because my whole purpose is to share the knowledge with dancers. And for me to do that, I need to be able to collaborate. I need to be able to be where the dancers are. And a lot of the institutions are they don't want to open that box and grab the needles. Well, they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, there's here the mental health. Okay, we can deal with that a little bit. What, psychology? Yes. Neuroscience? What is this? No. Because it's such a new field. It's such a new thing. Like, what? What is this neuroscience?
It's not new. And I'm talking about the industry, thinks it's new because they haven't heard of it yet.
Yeah.
Because they're living in
new to the new to the industry. It's like, what is this neuroscience? And sometimes it's too complex. People don't even want to try because it's just what brain too complex.
So I have another question that I'm going to postpone to later. Let's dig into this a little bit, because I'm seeing the same thing as when we're looking at coaches or anybody that is doing something outside of the dance box is, and I guess it's normal when change occurs. We have so many voices in the industry and the community that is starting to saying, hey, I found another way how we can make it easier. I found another way. I have science on my side to prove that what you're doing there isn't working really, and you're actually hurting the people. I have proved that if we're looking at the dancer as a whole and not just a body that we're seeing so much, we could actually have different results. We would be able to set people up for success and for a career that is fulfilling. Dancers don't start dancing because they think they're going to make the big bucks and they're going to be really super successful. Dancers start dancing because they have to. It's something in their soul that they just have to do. It's divinely given to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that it has to end in heartbreak, right? And with all the work that is coming up, we are actually seeking different ways of making it easier. So, tangent, I went off topic. However, let's move into a little bit of a, why do you think there is so much pushback? And I'm not talking, we know that it's unfamiliar and that it may be overwhelming. I think there is another reason, and I'm curious if you may bring it up. So what do you think another reason could be besides unawareness?
So you mentioned one there that you said that, suddenly people are saying, you know what, their science is proving that you're doing this wrong. And I think is this protective layer of that also the community has, and when it comes to institutions, it's like, what do you mean I'm doing something wrong? People don't want to see that they're doing something wrong. No one wants to admit that they're causing harm, and I don't think anyone intentionally. I don't think teachers intentionally are not inclusive. I don't think people are doing it intentionally, but it's a hard slap to understand. Hold on, I have been discriminating people. Oops, and I think when I in the workshops, when I mention all these things, people realize, oh, I've been doing this wrong. And people who are willing to learn and grow, they're like, oh, this workshop has been great. Now I can do better. But a lot of people who don't want to accept that they've been doing it wrong. And so I think that's one big barrier. It's like they don't want to know what they should be doing because they don't want to admit that they've been doing some kind of harm. And I don't think when people are unintentionally doing harm, I don't think, it's about the willingness to grow and do better. Then closing eyes and keep doing harm. I think that's what it is really bad. But in terms of other barriers, I would love for people to actually, sometimes I wish people told me, I wish people were like super honest so I could read their minds and think about, you know what, I don't want the neuroscience of dance because of this. Because I think there's a lot of barriers that I don't even know about because people just hide their way and they're like, okay, so they may see like a lot of the information, they just look away. And they don't want to dig more into it. And some people I had people being kind of defensive against me, like, oh yeah, but what do you know? But what do you know? Kind of thing. And
let me tell you what she knows.
But it's not in the sense of, this doesn't happen often, thankfully. But a lot of people are very, and also there's a lot of other layers, which at the beginning was really hard. So if you look at the history of neuroscience and dance, and even science in general and dance, at the beginning was really hard because artists were seeing science as something that is reductionist, is putting things in boxes and is very objective. And artists, there was this concern that science was going to ruin art, but also from the side of science, they didn't know how to analyze something that is so, especially in dance, how do you analyze something that is so personal, so individual, is an experience that is happening at that moment where the action is the goal and the goal is the action and everything's happening at the same time and you cannot measure it. And it's movement. So brain imaging techniques, forget about them because most of them require you to be static. So there was like a lot of challenges. But from the arts side was this preoccupation with what are they really analyzing and do they really get us? So I think there's also this other concern where, okay, there's neuroscience of dance and they're studying this, but do they really get what dance is? Like, what exactly are they studying? And I know that a lot of, I know that some neuroscientists may not be careful and they may just put dance in a box and the way they conduct studies is not the best. But I want to also pass the message that a lot of neuroscientists that are really careful in how they do things. And I was lucky to have somebody supervising me and teaching me all of this who was really careful. Like, hold on, let's think about every level of what we're analyzing here. And it's really important to understand that not all scientists are trying to put art in a box and study and say, this is it. Right. Not everyone is trying to do that.
Beautiful. Okay. So you are the founder of Neuroscience of Dance. Talk to us. What are your upcoming programs? Go ahead.
Sorry,
jump right in.
No, it's just my phone was ringing, so I was like trying to. So upcoming projects. So I have constructed a couple of workshops, and they are born as I go. And the main workshop is in Neuroscience of Dance, where I teach all the stages of learning dance and how can we learn better and teach better. So that's the main one. That's how it started. From then, a lot of the topics, such as memory, became way too much to give in one workshop with a million other topics. So I have specific topics such as like memory skills, attention skills, where I focus more on each topic. But then I also have the dance integrated healing methods, where I gathered all the healing properties of dance and all the good impact that dance has in the brain and the different aspects that contribute to it, and put it in a method where all the exercises are based on that. But also somatic practices, breathing techniques, and so other areas that are not dance, but they relate to dance and the properties, the healing properties of dance. And where I also give the neuroscientific explanation. So I go a lot into, okay, this is how the brain processes the self. This is how the brain processes dance and interaction with others, and this is what happens with. So each exercise is based on neuroscience, and I give the explanations as well, so people really understand, okay, so this exercise is doing this to my brain, kind of thing. So they can now kind of like picture it. So I have those two levels of, the dance integrated healing method, but also the other one where there are various topics. Upcoming, I have a wellness program for dancers where I have 4 different workshops. So the first one is about self-talk and self-comparison. Why do we do it? How can we stop? How can we be kinder to ourselves in the conversations we have with ourselves? And how can we stop the self-comparison, which is something a lot is really common in dance community, especially now where we see people's lives only through the internet because of the lockdown, and we always like comparing. But then I have another workshop which is on sense of self and self-image, and how movement relates to identity, how identity relates to movement, how we construct the sense of self, and what dance has to do with this, and also how to use movement, creative movement, to improve self-esteem and body image, but also how to stop the negativity in regards to body image that is in the dance community of affecting us. So that's a really complete workshop for just body image. And then there's the third workshop, which is just a dance integrated healing methods. And then there's another workshop for stress and anxiety management. And all of this is from the neuroscientific perspective always, because that's my perspective. That's what I studied. And I always give, why, at the neurological level, what is stress, what is anxiety, and what can we do to really manage those 2 aspects. And this is a wellness program that starts on the 1st of May and is the first 3 Saturdays of May. There are different times, so it's, if people are interested, they have to go and check. But I always have different things coming up, different workshops coming up, and different kinds of topics, and new topics all the time come up. The body image one and the sense of self is a brand new topic. It's something that I've been interested. So everything that I start studying, I create a new workshop to share that knowledge.
Beautiful. You also have a Facebook group that we're going to link when you want to be a part of this after hearing all the great things that you're doing. It's in the show notes, so you can sign up for a Facebook group. And I believe I read you have a podcast. Do you have a podcast of your own?
Yeah. I have the dance.
What is it called?
The Dance is Medicine podcast.
Subscribe to that podcast and listen, because that is, what we underestimate. And I want to sum this up, because you're so good in looking at every single avenue, at every single challenge that we're seeing in the dance world. And as as a whole, for me, there's 7.8 billion dancers out there. Some pursue it as a career, and it's some, just dance in their living room, but we're all dancers. But when I see all of what you're doing, is that the way you can show up as your very best dancer, 20% happens in the studio. The other 80% of becoming and being the very best dancer that you can be happens outside of the studio. It happens with what you believe, what you think, what you put in your body, who you're surrounding yourself with, what content are you putting into your brain, how are you looking at yourself, what kind of knowledge do you acquire. There are so many other things that really come into the container of a dancer that has not been really looked at for such a long time. We believe that creating muscles and getting people through 8 years of dance education is going to make them a dancer. No, it makes them to fit in that box that we have created for all of these decades. And that box is falling apart because the people in there are hurting drastically. There is so much abuse and so much misconduct happening, and it's time to get that box undone. So I wanted to say thank you, really, for looking at all of these avenues on how can we make science more accessible to dance, because science, it's something in our hands. It's proven. Like, you cannot deny the facts of science, and turning a blind eye to it is basically saying yes to all the abuse that we're seeing in the industry, and it's not cool.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And it's when you say that people inside, the box is falling, yes, definitely, especially after the pandemic, dancers they had enough. I had so much more dancers reaching out as soon as the pandemic started, because they are so fed up with all of this. And to be honest, if people don't keep up, if teachers don't keep up, if schools don't keep up, they'll fall apart. So it's up to them to really start making a move. And it's up to us. I'm a dancer myself, I'm talking, but I'm a dancer myself. And it's up to us making the change too, as well. And a lot of the times people in my workshops, they ask, it's about dancers demanding the change as well.
Everything starts with us, right? Like the change, as much as dancers look on the outside to blame everything, the systems and the teachers and but if we don't find that courage in ourselves to speak up, nobody around us is going to do it for us. Like this is truly on us. Like every single person who finds the courage to say no or to ask the question brings the entire industry closer to a complete renaissance.
Exactly.
I am so grateful for you. Thank you for coming on here. Thank you for doing the hard work, because that is hard work. And, even though we're not in the business of convincing people, it sometimes seems like we are here to talk over and over and over again to show our points and say, hey, these are the scientific science proves that this is not working the way you're doing it, but yet you're turning a blind eye, and that can be exhausting. I know from my own experience. So the more I want to commend you and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Is there anything that I have not mentioned that you would like to say as a closing?
No, also, I just want to thank you for what you do as well. I think podcasts like these are really important, and I'm so happy to be here and that you invited me. And I think resources like these are important as well to make the change. And, as you said, it's tiring to constantly, I feel like I'm constantly proving myself, proving my work, convincing people, and it becomes exhausting. But it's great to find like-minded people who are doing the same work, and that's what I love, is when I find like-minded people and we collaborate through podcasts or doing workshops together and creating resources together. And it makes you feel that you're not alone in the fight, and you have people out there that are really on the same path that you are, and they also pushing through and climbing the hill. And it's thank you so much. It's great to see the work that you do, and people who work like this and really push through. It's really important, and make me feel that I'm not alone.
Thank you. Yeah, you're not alone. Do you know where I learned that concept? In entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneurs are really, really lonely. And I've been in these circles of master classes and masterminds where we all come together and we all struggle with the same things. Mm-hmm. And by knowing that we're not alone, it makes us so much stronger. And I found that we don't have that. Like, we don't even think in dance in Bali and in the industry to collaborate, because everybody is so afraid they're giving something away that will challenge their existence. So here's our call to action from both of us. Collaborate, find communities, find people that you can talk to, talk with, be on each other's podcasts, show each other off, and polish each other's crowns, because that's how we all going to become so much stronger.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. Definitely with that one, a lot of people are so afraid to collaborate, are so afraid to promote others because they're scared it's going to steal something from them, not understanding that, the spotlight only becomes bigger when you share it, so it's, actually someone told me, if someone doesn't want to share the spotlights because they don't have enough for themselves, so it's this thing where, yeah, a lot of people are scared as well. And I think that really slows things down. People are just scared. We hear competing and stealing things from each other, when actually, no, if we all gather together, there's so much knowledge that I don't know that someone can give me and I can give them back. And I see other people in the field as people that compliment me and I compliment them. I don't see them as competition. They stealing my my audience. A lot of the times my audience really appreciates me having other people with different knowledge, and students are so excited every time I collaborate with somebody, because there's new knowledge coming in, so it's great.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sophia, for bringing that up. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back very soon. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you, my darling, for being here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.